Let's go. What's up, man?
What's up?
All right,
What's good?
so Brandon, musician,
Damn.
actor, businessman. What else? Can I keep going? Comedy
Father,
connoisseur, father. Can't forget about
father,
that
man.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
can't.
yeah. So where does the Brandon story start, man?
Uh, I mean, literally Hayward, California. Um, my mother and father, I moved from Hayward when I was 4 and moved to Fremont. Newark briefly in Fremont, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in my upbringing actually in Fremont, Ardenwood in particular, which everything, the whole bay, the whole state, and damn near the country at this point has changed dramatically with technology and socioeconomics. And we were definitely I guess for lack of a better term, a testing ground for that. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Due to industry and stuff. So being raised by a single Black woman who had me later in life, raised me in a very diverse part of the Bay Area, and I established like some of the most like truly one of the most diverse places in the world. Being real with
Uh-huh.
you, and that's all my family. And my mom worked in Silicon Valley, first iteration, and so I was like. And I was an only child, and she was highly like, for I mean this in the best way possible, but really codependent, just being mature about it. And so like
Mm.
she was an amazing mother, like very I don't I you know that's where the story starts really. And I fell in love with
Yeah.
hoop, got really good at it. You know what I'm saying? Ended up
Yeah.
playing, through D1 at San Diego State. Also 3 knee surgeries, and there's granular details to all of that, but that's really like the story. And my mom actually, the music part. She's a musician. I'm a writer, and
Yeah.
uh, I love hip hop. I grew up playing instruments because of her, because of access in the home. Uh, I felt like sitting outside just because it's beautiful, but like in my spot,
Yeah.
most of my furniture is vinyl, like it's original vinyl. I'm, next of kin with Bill Withers and Clifford Poulter, who's not as big, but he's a published musician who's done a lot of things. I mean, I grew up listening to my mom talk on the phone with like Berry Gordy and GC Cameron of the Spinners and
Yeah.
Otis Williams from the Temptations. And one of my first features, actually paid feature, was like on a Denise Williams remake, and I
What?
was kicking it with her son, who's a maniac at San Jose Arena at one of her like Valentine's Day love jams and shit like
Right.
that. So I had a really eclectic upbringing, right? And that's really what made the person that like you met. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
kind of like what defines how I navigate like life, really.
Okay. So what was Fremont like? Because I obviously from my standpoint, I'm born and raised in Oakland. Drive through Fremont every now and again. It's a rest stop on the way to San Jose, if you will. So I don't know much about growing up in Fremont.
I was a true minority as a Black kid, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise because it taught me my identity from a different perspective. And I had a real strong identity in my family. And then also, white kids were damn near a minority culturally and socially just because it was so ethnically diverse and it catered to that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the rest stop for you was just a pivotal vantage point for us because, like, I
Yeah.
know San Jose well,
Yeah.
San Jose in its heyday, and really, like, also due to my tenure and like just shit I didn't choose, family, and then whatever how things come together. Like, I know a lot of people in the Bay who've done a lot of cool shit. Shout
Okay.
out DJ Young Sal. Shout out my cousin DJ Tussie. It's a lot of other people. So when I'm saying these stories, like a lot of it is because of one, just social access because of being cool and shit. But when you're
Yeah.
young, right? But two, like being partners with Sal, I was, and being just a outside high key Arab Bay Area kid, I was at all types of tellies and crazy shit with rappers and Wild 94.9 parties when I was a prep athlete, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just chilling. And
Yeah.
so like, and I wasn't, using or nothing like that, but it's all cool experiences. So what it was like for me was that tempered with like having a real like community
Mm.
environment and like these different districts of Fremont that have their own personality, but it's all really just like a working class suburb, you know, that was generationally built up until our generation, you know, and my neighborhood in particular was new, like well, not really new, but like in the grand scheme of things, a lot of the houses were built in like the 50s and 60s, other than the new homes. And now it's all bunch of, you know, they built over farmland and all types of shit. But like, we were right in between San Jose and Oakland, and we weren't in danger. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so like, you know, it was a low police force. We had the white kids throwing like, for real, bro, like Laguna Beach style, like not in the same, not with the same wealth, you know, socioeconomic access, but like parents that shouldn't have, you know, we all went to college and shit, but it was just a different time, you know? And so it was cool getting that because like, and especially from where I stood, I was like, I low key, like, you know, was stepping at that age and like was doing cool shit and, you know, have a good head on my shoulders. And so I could really navigate well. And I had known the whole community since I was a kid because I was balling and I was always outside anyway, you know? And so I got a really, really thorough rooting there. And then the other side of it was growing up and man, from grade school, I could like identify, and I don't, this will sound stupid, but it's just true. Like I could identify, and it's a lot of Bay Area people, but because of where I grew up, like Middle Eastern wasn't really a thing to me. Like I get the term, but like I can identify people and like relate to a certain degree with like their culture and identity because of homes I grew up in. You know what I'm saying? And like Asian wasn't really a thing to me. It's like these are various cultures and countries and like people whose parents came from these places and raised some of my best friends and like embraced me in ways that we even all have hella differences. I don't mean my core community, but I'm saying, you know, the American experiment. And that shit just didn't exist, bro. Like, even if certain parents have stereotypes and we're adults now, we can be real, right? Like, that shit didn't exist. And so I grew up to know myself in America as well as America, I think, for like what the fuck it should be, if I'm going to be real with you.
For sure.
And the Bay Area does that for us a lot. Like, this is one of this place, especially what it was before, you know, it's becoming more of just what everything's becoming, very homogenous, but like, there's nothing like it. You know what I'm saying? And people from here know that. People who've experienced shit and who spent time here, they know that. But you can get big cities. Like there's nowhere like New York, and I mean that, but you can get a city, you can get like a farmland, you can get a tropical environment, and every culture is different. But when I say like, there's no place like the Bay because of what the Bay provides and historically what built this place through this American process, it's true. And so we really are the fruit of that, you know, and Fremont, it allowed me to really like experience that from like I said, a safe place as well as like a very appreciative place. You know?
That's something that is so hard for me to like conceptualize with people, is just how, like, I grew up, I remember like learning about, you know, Jim Crow and slavery and not understanding any of that, how it could exist at all, just because of all the different types of friends I had growing up. You know, like it wasn't that's my white friend, that's my Chinese friend. That's just my homie.
Right. I went to Forest Park Elementary was ranked third in the state at the time. Our class was the first K-6 class to go there. So and we had some of the best athletes from the Bay, dog, if I'm gonna keep it a fuck with you. Robert Turbin, shout out to the homie, Super Bowl champ, like grew up with that dude, you know what I'm saying? And playing in the park with him and watching him be clunky as hell at basketball and then become this fucking standout running back by the time he was in high school. But shout out to the homie K Spain, my dude Trey Clark, and all the other ballers, bro. Like that, those are names you could look up. But like, that's just from my, 2 years of my life, you know what I mean? But like, we really was, we was schmobbing on the entire city. And so it was this interesting dichotomy of like, mainly shit because the times and the types, and also people shift around or use other addresses to be able to live places. We're at the northmost point of Fremont, bordering South Hayward with good schools and like first generation immigrant parents who are raising good kids because of moral foundation, but they're also like Afghan mob, Vietnamese mob, older brothers. And so the neighborhood was live. And we was active throughout for the most part, and especially in San Jose and like Union City, Hayward, and a lot of the, like DBs and shit like that when it came to business. But the homies that are either have been incarcerated multiple times, have had like, been involved in gun violence, were making our neighborhood way more lit than it really needed to be.
Yeah.
They were all supportive as hell, bro. Like they, you know what I'm saying? We were really like a family. We had hella like weird ass, not weird, but just different principles. I'm not going to use too many trigger words. So like we were all good, bro, and we grew up with this sense of functioning that was real mob like, you know, and we held true to that. With how we upheld our integrity, with how we held our own, as well as like how we engaged, you know, the community. So it was an expectation somewhat of excellence. At the same time, we was on some real fuckery and just kicking it, like in the neighborhood, like on the block, like outside, had common meeting points, you know, like businesses in the neighborhood that knew everybody. And if you wasn't known there, there's like one way in and one way out of Fremont, or two ways in, not Fremont, of Ardenwood. Literally, there's a way in and a way out on each side. And so like, this is high school, and I'm not trying to make it sound more thuggish than it was, but we really had our neighborhood, and we were the first generation to have it like that, and the last generation to have it like that, because now it's just a bunch of, you know, commuter transplants, and it's very homogenous. So,
and behind homogenous, just to give clarity, it's just very white now.
No, just Indian and Asian.
Oh,
and
it's not.
It's Silicon Valley. I mean, it's prime location. It's the third biggest city in the Bay, bro, and it's right on the bridge to Silicon Valley. You know what I'm saying? We have a major bridge that goes through there, and then it's a main channel for 880 through everywhere, and then out to Pleasanton and stuff for the valley. So that's all it is now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's corporate apartments and stuff, and people who aren't. It's like that. I mean, it's everywhere. It's just different socioeconomic. Like a lot of people in Fremont now are like, they're rebuilding Fremont to what it's probably gonna be, which is, it's always been just a suburb, but the Bay had a different culture. As you know. So like that's just gone. There's nobody there that's really invested in generationally in the community. You know what I'm saying? And hella new corporate apartments and like track homes that literally occupy. It's weird to be in my early 30s, bro, and have a 6-year-old son. Yeah. And by the time I came back from San Diego State, being like, okay, like we're gonna show like and my homies too, you know, like my nephews and shit, like we're gonna show them like what it was like growing up. Like we're here, we're doing all right, you know what I'm saying? This is cool. Like we're, you know, 2 decades plus into these friendships and relationships. And it's just not the same, you know, because of how rapidly things have started changing for our generation. So like it even like it aesthetically looks different, even unless you're like right in like the communities that we grew up in, or like on the streets where like grandparents might still live and stuff like that. So
it's a shame, man. It's a shame how much the Bay has changed. I know that like when I came back from college after the 4 years, it just didn't feel like home. It just bro. In 4 years it completely changed.
And I'm well integrated. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm 4 generations deep here with a large family. I play basketball, do music, weed. You know what I'm saying? Like and it's still every day I'm like, that's new. You know what I'm saying? And not just like a business or a store, but like a whole mode of operation and shit, bro. Like and or just like all these legacy businesses that are just out of here. You know,
so that's what I'm trying to do now, though. That's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to find the next spot that's going to get gentrified. Like I get it. This is just a natural way of life. I mean, like America was founded on gentrification. Like everything.
Yeah, this is all a business. This is true, bro. The duality of that, especially because you know the heartfelt conversations that you have, especially with all types of Oakland white people and everybody to the other side of the spectrum, the radical, you know, brothers, and not that anyone's right or. Some are more right
than others. Wrong, yeah.
What I'm saying is like it's there's an emotional approach to this, and there's a pragmatic approach to this, and both of them exist, and we got to accept it to properly function. You know what I'm saying? And I think in the vein of like a Nipsey Hussle, you know, just to give an overarching like idea of what that looks like, because like we can feel all we want about it, but America's a business. Like it ain't new. Like it's not like there's some veil that's being like, you know, lifted at this point. We're just we're reaching the end of this phase of this style of capitalism. But like what this actually is, though, don't be fooled. Like this isn't a morally grounded, you know, operation. This is a business, and everybody that is a part of this system, they in one way or another feed into the business of America. You know what I'm saying? So you know, not to tell anyone to change their moral foundation, but that dichotomy will always be here, and we have to find a way to operate constructively within that, or just get the fuck out, you know?
Man, yeah, it's just America is too damn big. Like being the president of America, the CEO of America, that would be. I mean, there's no way that someone could
Bruh is middle
do
management, dog.
it. Right. I mean, there's no
The
way you
president.
can do enough for like the region of California and still be pleasing the people of like Utah or Denver. You know, it's
Nah.
just like Utah, like they're not, you know, they have completely different, like they can't drink on Sundays. You know, they got
It all plays into the bipartisan scheme though. It's all balance, man. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to get preachy. You're a smart dude. We've had a lot of conversations, and I interrupted you, but
hey, do you think people are too political today? Like, I think too many people care about politics. Where I think we all should be educated on it, but I don't think everyone should be like passionate. Like every other conversation.
Bro, I'm gonna take everything to a different, not different, but just like you know me. Whether it's political, spiritual, social, you know, whatever, everyone's crazy, bro. Society is crazy as hell.
Yeah.
And we're searching for identity, and we have too much idle time. We have too much privilege. And I think that our petty quarrels, our identity quarrels, and it's also like I think it's a construct of the times. The whole political shit is weighted because that's intentional in a lot of ways. Like that's media driven, that's economy driven, that's just going to be what it is. I think why we're so susceptible to it these days is what I'm talking about, and why everybody and that has to do with shit that we're all still learning. You know what I mean? And while people are getting wealthy off of the experiment of it, which is social media, technology, how it's changed society, how it's changed how we socialize, how we identify with ourselves, how we navigate the world. So you know, it's not even, I don't think anyone's really that political. People are just distracted and seeking fucking answers, or seeking validation, or seeking like their version of, you know, trying to find their bearings, you know, and that's what's triggering right now, you know?
Yeah.
But I think everything is becoming more intense in that way. Really, you know, like the political thing is just because that's been a huge issue. But it's only been escalating. Like we lived through Y2K, we lived through 9/11, we lived through Bush, we lived through the start and the end of Afghanistan.
Am I just older now?
It's only been a progression. And
I mean, are we just older now to recognize it, or is it always been like this? That's another question I have.
I remember first being able to vote and having like my identity somewhat involved in politics, and my uncle telling me like, hey, this is about Obama too, and this is an upstanding Black man who's smart. And he was just like, it wasn't that he was apathetic, but he was just like, this shit isn't new. And the whole idea of identity politics based, he wasn't using these words, but the idea of identity politics and, you know, the social enthusiasm behind like federal cycles.
Yeah.
It's all a dog and pony show. And not that we don't know that and didn't know that, but it's easy to, I mean, and not that I'm saying Obama is even good or bad. He's just a part of an administration that had a mission and had a job. And you know what I'm saying? And he's only so even influential other than socially in PR, you know what I'm saying? Then so like I think it's a lot of it is that. I think that if you were to go back and see some of the everyone thinks it's the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some like reason to believe that and not that we're not progressing slowly closer, you know, or more rapidly toward, you know, engineering our own demise, but just like there ain't nothing new under the sun. It's you know, all content, context, and process, but the shit is all cycles. That's why history and all this stuff is so important. Like they'll tell you that like in the introduction to it, you know?
Yeah. And
not that it's exactly the same, but I think the caveat now is this other dimension that we've created of technology, and how we now, you know, literally, like figuratively, but we're creating these other dimensions overlapping each other, and like how money isn't even real at this point, you know, like the concept of money, people say money's not real. I get it, but what I mean is like a paper dollar, paper $100 bill, it really don't matter. This shit is just like, it's for chattel use within our system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the money. The value of money is only what we give it anyway. But like we're at a point now where we have a bunch of fictitious shit, whether it be our identity, whether
Yeah.
it be like value. There's another layer of it now. You know what I'm saying? And now we have this other dimension of reality that influences, if not more so, you know, directly like actual reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's the caveat now.
It is crazy, man. Like have some crazy power outage or something, and like the numbers just disappear that you're supposed to be worth. I I think that concept's so funny. It's just like it's literally an imaginary number. Like I might have more money than the person that's living in my apartment complex only because I have the cash on me. You know, literally have the cash. Otherwise, you know, they just have some number that's in their account, and people work their entire lives, you know, to get that number.
I mean, but at the same time, I mean, we all invested though in this system and put faith in the fact that it won't collapse, right? And then that's what I mean. We've seen it happen other places, and everything, you know, things that are powerful feel too big to fail. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen here, but more so, those dollars wouldn't mean shit either, though.
Yeah,
you know, hypothetically speaking, because who needs paper at that point?
Right, you're right.
If there's no value in the actual infrastructure of the system, so
yeah, jumping back. Let me. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Back to Fremont. You know, you said hoop was something that you were you know that you did a lot growing up. Like, when did the idea of playing in college become? Because that's not something that everybody that balls in high school thinks is even like a possibility.
It wasn't a high school thought. It was like a law of attraction requirement or like manifestation, bro. That's the best way I could put it. Kids dream, and I hopefully, maybe not all, I don't know, I only know what's real to me, but like kids dream and have goals and imagine shit. And that was something that it's probably what carried me through my 2 knee surgeries at the most pivotal points in my high school prep career. At the end of my senior year, in the biggest game of my career in our league. And my sophomore year, when I first started getting recruited directly by like most of the West Coast schools. And I got invited to a bunch of top 100 camps is when I first tore my ACL. So I was out that summer.
Damn.
And lost a lot of that. But so I didn't decide. Like it was more so just like, and I could get real deep into this, and I'm not, because it's a bunch of esoteric shit. But like I used to like really like lucidly dream, and like I was a in here kid, and so like basically saying that to say, ever since that age, bro, I could literally feel myself and see myself like playing college basketball. And you have all types of people in your ear and shit, and like that'll either be trying to like temper your expectations or hype you up. And I was really good when I was young, so people are telling you all types of shit, and I kind of always had this perspective of not falling in love with any of that. You know, like of course you enjoy and you appreciate the attention and the hype, but like it was always just a very practical thing to me doing what I love. My mom never made me force me to play basketball. She learned the game through my passion for it for the most part. Like she, of course, liked it prior. My father was a hooper, but like he didn't raise me, and I had nobody telling me, but they would kick me off the courts when I was in kindergarten and first grade, because you had to be in like 2nd or 3rd grade before they let you play on the courts at recess. And I was hooping, so nobody was tripping, but like they would catch me like at least a couple times a week, and I'd have to get kicked off every single time. And fell in love with Michael Jordan. He probably created hella hoopers, but like maybe the positive like gratification and validation reinforcement, but I just always knew that that's what I was gonna do, because I always knew I was gonna go to college too.
So that was expectation.
I never expected my mom to pay for it. Now even if she didn't, like I got good grades and shit, so like I wasn't tripping off the money. Like I was well taken care of as a kid, but most single parents can't just pay for college, you feel me? I also had bougie ass uncles and shit that were saying that took pride in me. So like I just never stopped. I was truly committed. Like I put in my 10,000 plus hours hooping. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't doing that shit for nobody but me loving hoop. And like it paid dividends. That's all I really could say.
You had to fight through the knee surgeries, which is not an easy thing. But was there an affirming moment or like game that you had that gave you the confidence to know that, like, yeah, I'm going to hoop in college?
A couple tournaments in junior high when I was really good at skateboarding growing up, to like, like in elementary, into elementary school. I had to stop because of Osgood Slaughter's like tendonitis shit. And then getting good enough to where I was going to start really fucking my body up if I wanted to progress, and I had like a future with hoop. So I just had to put that down, but I still love it. And so around like junior high, a couple tournaments where like opposing coaches and like trained like niggas just in the gym, like grown ass men that were like prepping kids were like, yo, like they pulled me aside after games that had none, they weren't invested in my team at all. And like, we're just like, check this out. And let me know about myself in a positive way. Even before that, like when I was in Newark rec leagues, that's where I first met. Shout out to Paul. Anyway, it don't even matter, but kind of like Birdie from above the rim, bro. Like that I grew up with from our neighborhood. I knew him since before I even moved into my neighborhood because I was playing on in this rec league in Newark, and his homie was on the team, and then I ended up living, and that's like my family, the whole neighborhood. But Paul used to just be like my cheerleader. He would just go watch his friend play basketball, and he was like a little thuggish kid, and so like he embraced me like early, and that league though, like all 3 years of playing in that league, bro. The coaches, I have MVP trophies from that league, and you wasn't supposed to get no trophies or anything from that. It's because all of the coaches conspired and told my mom, don't tell nobody, but we want to give Brandon these awards because of like how good he played and how good he plays in this league. And he deserves something for that. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't playing against those slouch kids. It's the Newark rec, like the city center shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like some bougie bullshit rec league. It was kids who I grew up playing against through high school and stuff like that. But yeah, man, especially when the gap is so different. Like if you're a kid who's really good at some shit, you're going to look like you're a fucking phenom, dog. You know what I'm saying? And I was playing against older cats who embraced me, and I just took to hoop like that. And so I think to answer your question, those moments, like when I was, third, fourth, fifth grade, and I was like here and here, just way head and shoulders above my peers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then like as I moved through the ranks, so then junior high was like, nah, bro, you're going into high school. You need to start thinking about this from like all of these other community people. And then in high school, like it just speaks for itself at that point. Like I started getting recruited. It was kind of embarrassing, blood, because I didn't take the normal route. I had a single mom. I chose, instead of going to Newark Memorial, people from here, probably if you were aware of sports, your basketball, you're aware of that program. They recruited like half their ballers from my neighborhood, actually. And a lot of that for that reason. I didn't want to switch high schools, and I didn't want to do that. Like I respected Coach Ashmore. So I went to American instead, where I was supposed to go, and I always kind of held that chip on my shoulder. And so, like by high school, I wasn't expecting anything because I had nobody in my corner like that.
Right.
It was just a regular program, and I started getting like major college program letters and like third period like read when like they come around from the counselor's office to give mail to the teachers. They didn't even know how, they didn't even get in touch with my coach, bro. They got in touch with my counselors at my school. And so I started getting like piles of fucking college letters and like in my sophomore year in class. And like then students started acting weird, and like teachers even started acting weird, blood. Like people started treating me different. And like I think that at that point too, and then I tore my ACL like 6 months later.
Oh my God. Yeah. Damn. That's terrible.
It's all, it's life. You feel me? I wasn't finna go to the league or nothing anyway. And I know that sounds defeating and people shouldn't say that, but I'm 6'1", dog. And I always had a good understanding of what that really looks like,
Yeah.
And so it's just, it builds character. And I wouldn't choose that ever. But knowing what that was for me and where I ended up regardless, like life's been good,
Did you mirror your game after a specific athlete or anybody?
I mean, I was trying to be Michael Jordan when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I guess that has to go for any guard that grew up at that time and was a fan. But Tracy McGrady, I was a huge fan of, like from Toronto through like until his back started really just taking him out. Allen Iverson. Like prior to that, just prior and around that time, like when Mike was fading out. I think those guys probably had the biggest influence on my game. I knew every basketball player. I was a fan for different reasons, but probably those guys had the biggest influence on my game personally.
Yeah. So you finally you decide on San Diego State. How do you decide on San Diego State?
I was willing to go there even if it wasn't for sports. I wanted to stay in California. They had a competitive program on the rise that was being coached by a Hall of Famer and Steve Fisher. Much love to Coach Fish. And it was one of the better opportunities. I also tore my meniscus my senior year in the game against Newark Memorial, bro.
Oh, damn.
Like the first 3 minutes. Yeah, and they had been undefeated in our league at the varsity level all 4 years of my high school career. So that was a highly, highly touted game. They had a couple prep guys on their team, and there was me, and it was expected that I was going to show out, and I did for the first 3 minutes. I'll never.
First 3 minutes.
100% shooting. 100% shooting. A couple of these highlights are in my fucking college recruitment video, bro.
Yeah.
I had 9 points, like 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a torn meniscus in 3 minutes.
Oh,
had to hop off the court. The only shot I missed actually was the one where I went up for this floater when I tore my meniscus.
Yeah.
So I watched that game from the sidelines, and then went to Kaiser afterward, and they lost. We lost, but yeah, damn, I forgot the question.
You said they lost. I balled out. You said they lost.
Yeah, that was a dick move. Those are like my friends too.
I would say, how did you end up on San Diego State?
Yeah, so at that point, I was like, I wasn't committed anywhere, and I was in a real pinch, right? So I went on faith. They asked me to come, and it all worked out. I worked out for them, and it all worked out. I also had like good grades and got a Pell Grant and shit like that, so they were willing to like compensate on the scholarship and stuff.
And what was that transition like, living in the Bay Area to going down to Southern California, man?
Irresponsible. I mean, it was great. It was great. How it affected me, dog. This is a whole nother podcast, bro. I was a good student my whole life. I was on academic probation for the first time in my life, the first semester.
Okay.
And stupid me, I took 18 units my first semester in college because I was used to school being easy. Like I slept walked to like a 3.5 cum and got really good SAT scores and shit first try, didn't study so I was like, I go to school 5 days a week now and I have 5 classes and this is 5 classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like I'm straight.
Right.
And then I started hooping, fucking with women, being a college student with clout and a San Diego resident with clout and traveling the country and said, fuck school. I mean, like I gave like minimum effort that would normally get me through. Yeah. And it got me into like, counselors' offices and stuff like that. The positive stories, like the good story, like most of it is positive. All of it's positive. It didn't affect like my hooping or anything like that.
Yeah.
What's it called? I mean, it was a fantastic experience that I have lifelong friendships. Some of my best friendships and relationships were derived from. It was surreal because it happened so fast, and I transitioned so fast without preparation. Playing at the D1 level was a phenomenal experience. I mean, that's a privilege in and of itself that like, God, there's too many details. And I was also playing with somebody who I've been playing against in Kyle Spain, who played professional overseas and stuff like that. I've been playing against Kyle since I was 9. So like he's from my neighborhood and shit. He was there and a conference leading athlete, and Brandon Heath, who was at the time one of the Mountain West Conference above Tony Gwynn, who also played basketball as a point guard, like one of the highest ranking guards, period. Assists, points, 3, like all types of shit. And they called me Lil B, one because I was from the Bay and we're in SoCal. 2, Lil B was like, this is 2007. And that's Brandon Heath. I'm Brandon Martin. And like he's, so I saying that to say, without getting into too much detail, I got to learn from like draft prospects and be embraced by guys in ways that they, because of who they were and on top of the hoopers that they were, like it was like a real endearing educational experience in like professional facilities with Hall of Fame coaches who coached pros, and the Fab Steve Fisher, whoever doesn't know. And I was there to be purely a student, whereas every other point in my career, there was high expectations, both of myself and that never changed, but myself, but like, and of the output, for the team and the expectations of a season. And so I think I really like just soaked that in, to be honest with you. And then like having you know, there's a lot of superficial shit that could be seen as superficial, but like you just matter a lot at that level, bro. You
Yeah.
matter a lot. And so the way that they take care of your life reflects that. And the way that
Yeah.
people receive you reflects that. And you know, that's not something that signing those NCAA papers and like really like them putting it to you and like giving you the stats of how many people are your peers.
Yeah.
It really makes it real, you know?
Were you able to turn the education part around?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. My second semester was fine. I ended up transferring anyway, and
Oh, okay.
I was, you know, doing digital art and shit like that. So,
So you stopped playing hoops after your sophomore year?
nah. So I went to City College of San Francisco. I came back. I
Yeah.
came back that summer. I was gonna go back to San Diego State. There were a lot of changes in the program as well, and that didn't affect me directly. We started recruiting DJ Gay, Kawhi, and a couple Billy White, a couple other guys, and it would have been dope playing with them actually. Some of my personal friends, like a lot of shit happened my freshman year, bro. It's real ass story. But our team changed a lot, and I also was healthy for a year and had my college career to look at and really think about like where I wanted to be now, knowing the playing field. And based on my goals. And so there were a lot of schools that had been recruiting me, and every school in the Bay Area really knew who I was already. And so I wanted to go to Santa Clara at a high school, and they were back on me. And so, and the City College of San Francisco had a perennial.
Right.
That's even a whole nother story, bruh. Shout out to Rob Sally. Shout out to, what's up?
No, yeah. I mean, can you share some of these stories?
Yeah. But anyway, I went to City College of San Francisco. We were ranked #1 in the state. We had a couple bounce backs, including myself, and then a couple for big bounce forwards.
Yeah.
That ended up on the JUCO route. Now that like Last Chance U and shit like that is out, you can understand how that happened.
Right.
We were one of those teams, bro. Like, to be real with you, and that was a mania season, and I got hurt again. That was my third surgery.
Oh, damn.
And so I could have gone to Santa Clara on medical redshirt, and I had my eligibility, which is why I bounced back in the first place. To keep that year of eligibility without having to sit out a year. And I thought about life without hoop for a year and really what my goals were and what I wanted to do, what I was interested in, like how I wanted to apply myself to life as a whole. And I was okay walking away from basketball at that point and not chasing it as a means to an end. I've never been like that basic, and not that basketball is basic, but it was never my way out or my only way. Like even when I was growing up, like I always had hella shit I was doing, hella shit I was into. And I understood then at that point that I had achieved everything I expected of myself. And there's no point in chasing the transient superficiality of ego validation that level gives you, nor my identity to a point of being afraid to explore it further. And so that's really that I decided not to pursue business marketing at that level, even though it sounds, I could have went to the Levy School of Business and done that. I didn't want to do that. And what I wanted to study wasn't provided within that curriculum setting. So I went to a different school, also on scholarship for art purposes, like a dean scholarship to pursue shit I wanted to do. And I would have still played basketball if it was an option. It just wasn't.
Right. And so at what point does music make an entrance in your life? Like from a personal standpoint, I know you said you were always around it growing up, but at what point did you start pursuing music?
At that point, and I wasn't even going to actively really pursue it hella tough. I have shout out to my brother, Andrew Davenport. He was also a dope ass super. We played against each other since we were kids too. He's from Hayward, and we ended up playing with each other at City College of San Francisco that year. And bruh's like a music savant and hip hop savant. And like, we just really would nerd out on that shit and be getting in arguments in the locker room with niggas over taste and stuff like that. And would freestyle all the time and write music even. And really like in a couple like team trips and just decided like, man, when we get back home, like we got 17 Hertz and like a bunch of homies that like do music and got studios. Like, why don't we just do some shit for fun? And this is the mixtape era, right? And and we were like, and had decided on it. He's actually on, like, he's a part of our label that we had started like on our first ever mixtape, bro. And this so it's a trip to even just be at this point in life. But it was gonna be a hobby pursuit that then became business because of my childhood friend and investor in our business and my producer Bonafide, who was already working in the industry, working with like people like Frank Ocean, Terrace Martin. This is when Frank Ocean was actually under an alias, Lonnie Bro. Terrace Martin, he was working at a Ted Chung and Snoop Dogg studio, Purple Rain in LA. Like he was really doing shit. And also he's from the Bay and had been established, you know, working with people out here. And we have mutual, or we have ex-girlfriends that were friends, and we were with them at the time.
Yeah.
And he sorry, bro. Man, I feel really bad about this because I'm distracted because I just have to send this email. He really just asked, we had linked up one time at Ocean Beach at a bonfire talking about music and shit. He asked me to come through the studio and was fucking with me, like what I had produced and where I was at with it, and wanted to take me on as his artist actually. But Corey and I were already starting to change up entertainment and like financially investing and building the business of it. And so that didn't happen, but he was my early, like really like, that was my like safe space to explore like creativity and be really like become a rapper, you know what I'm saying? Which at that time in culture wasn't something you aspired to do. Like that wasn't a cool thing or like a easily accessible thing due to technology if that wasn't what you were about. And it was, you had to then be, you know, get to a level before anybody really, not that people care now, but any, you know how it is, bro. You know, there were rites of passage before in culture actually, like there were certain like boundaries and guideposts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were starting Change Up Entertainment, and really like back to Dav and I, my homie Andrew Davenport. So I really went all in studying. That's you know kind of what took me to Expression. I wasn't trying to go to Expression to be an artist. That's not what it's for. But really, if I was going to be starting a legitimate company in the business of music, which I had access to the business of music and been exposed to it my whole life. So like shit that now like people talk about widely, or like, you know, Nipsey Hussle preaches and you know, the whole independent route. Like I was always inspired first and foremost by the Bay Area, bro, and like how we were bred. And then two, understanding that industry and that business operates a certain way. And if you're going to be able to get to a point of being profitable anyway, then you might as well just understand business operations and practices and own your shit. So that's what we were trying to create for our peers. And this was at a time where this place was, is it Vapid, whatever, like there wasn't shit popping. This was Nemo was working at Dub CNN and like, you know what I'm saying, doing like, sorry about that garbage truck. There was no empire. This was like a huge gap and void in our, this is gonna be a hella like candid and organic interview, dog. This was it fits. This was a very like different time in our culture where we didn't have outlets. Like the Fizzler was the only thing, and that's not a real outlet in that sense. No disrespect to the Fizzler, but they're not gonna put you on in the music industry. You know what I'm saying? So we were trying to create that, man. Gerald was still in Louisiana, I think. Like and we understood that Corey and I had already been building it like a brand, you know, a culture company. And so we just pivoted to music. And I was never trying to become a household name or music celebrity in any way. I wanted to build something that would last and create sustainable business through that. And I also understood that through creating a brand, you can then do whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? Once you have the eyes and the attention, it's how you use that. So utilizing culture to establish that at a time in culture, in technology where things were very, very volatile and in flux. And I think that was the biggest thing working against us, because we didn't have huge seed capital other than my friend, my peer, who had been hustling / working. And when I say hustling, I'm not talking like selling sacks, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like that's part of, I have a lot of respect in my community and I give that to and my friends. And so he had a bunch of money from real hustling. And then also working a job, because he was raised by two Christian parents that, you know, spent their life in Hunters Point in San Francisco and did better for their family as a whole. And so I grew up with him in Fremont, but he had to have a job. He had money, didn't have no real plan or desires for college, great head on his shoulders. And is now a great, great father and business person. And so Corey was like, you know, if we're going to do this, like, let's do it. But we were operating with that seed money, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like we were coming from like niggas who were trapping and had millions, you know, tucked in somebody's mattress and were paying their way into the industry, and that wasn't our disposition anyway. Like, we actually shot ourselves in the foot by trying to put money into back into the community in ways that we would have benefited far greater by just like paying for services elsewhere that would have actually met us where we were at and provided us the ability to actually excel beyond that. So that's really how it started, man. And then the bottom fell out in life. My mom started struggling with like real personal, emotional stuff. I moved out of my apartment in Fremont and started like I had to move to without getting into too much detail, like real life started happening while I was actively operating the label and also excelling as an artist and starting to get paid for both like brand development services. I was taking on clothing sponsors. We had our other artists that we were trying to put out who were also dealing with like niggas dying in the streets and like real shit, bro. So like release schedules, company forecasting, like a lot of that stuff became then a hustle in and of itself, more so than like a business structure. And you're dealing in the culture space with artists, so
who are not the most polished professionally.
And I'm a 21-year-old 22-year-old artist trying to run this with one of my best friends who's also my best friend. The nepotism had nothing to do with it. Corey was better for the situation than I was, you know what I'm saying? So but I also had a lot of the relationships and the know-how, the passion, and the initiative to make Change Up Entertainment something that he and I came up with in our living room that was like synonymous at a certain time with Bay Area, like independent up and coming hip hop culture, and like was respected by people who I grew up listening to and shit. Like I ended up working with Action Bronson in studio and fucking rest in peace Zumbi, who became a friend, and all of the relationships and really my whole identity and what created. I started hustling with weed at that time too, and this is the Measure Z space in cannabis, and had always foreseen that, like, once again, if you build it, like, it fruits, you know what I'm saying? And more things will build from that if you have purpose and you have mission. So like it doesn't take a genius to understand the time we're living in now in the Bay Area, in cannabis in California. And so like having every access and exposure to that at that time and not having really indulged in that, even though I was fully exposed through my upbringing, I was just like, I'm going to take this serious and just commit to being an early, having an early entry in this space, you know what I'm saying? And also supplementing and or providing my income this way. It just further integrates what I'm passionate about, and that's really all life is for me.
Yeah, you seem to like really have an affinity for the business side of it versus the actual like music part of it.
Yeah, I couldn't represent that in a material sense, but I was just exposed to it a lot, and I've been entrepreneurial, bro, my whole life, like truly since I was a kid. I could give true real life examples of that, but like I never aspired to work for somebody nor sacrifice like my time and my true nature for superficial gain. It just doesn't, there's no point to it to me. I don't mean in a temporary sprint. I'm talking about like not living with purpose. I can't express how viscerally I came to this realization, like at an early age, in adult, like early, adolescent, late adolescent, adulthood. But like, I'd rather die.
Right.
I walked away from like financial, like I walked away from CEOs, like in their office, bro, who were giving me opportunities around the time I was going to go to Santa Clara to like be wealthy at this point from like financial sector jobs and shit like that. They had taken risks on me and spent resources on trying to train me and shit. And having to look these people in their face. And I interviewed with partners and all types of shit. And I was just like, very articulate, not like I'm talking to you, but just really expressed my motives, my reasoning, my appreciation, and understanding that I would succeed at this, but also that validation would then have me continue doing this at a time where I don't know if this is what I want to do or who I want to be. Right. And so I have to take the necessary sacrifice and steps to invest in the shit that I'm actually into and what I want to do with my life, who I want to be in this world, and I understood that wasn't going to be an overnight thing, and it was no delusion of grandeur of like, I want to be on stages rapping, but like anybody who's listened to my music understands that first and foremost, like my music isn't if I was aspiring toward that, I'm a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? But as kind of like the spearhead for the brand and having real culture and access to that and inspiration from that and influence from that, like, and at that time, they were, like I said, it was the mixtape era, bro. Like there were niggas like Charles Hamilton and fucking, you know, Lupe First and 15 series was doing. So there was a space for a lot of like the industry was growing and changing, but it was also really just like diluting for what's now like a highly consolidated technological e-com space. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we grew to a point of, I mean, we were pressing our own CDs, dog. We're talking about business side. Like Corey invested in all of the materials to press shit. We were doing small and larger runs for like a bunch of local entities. Like like, you know, managing our publishing and shit like that. Trying to manage the tours we got invited on, but you got asked to actually headline and people were investing in. And fortunately, we didn't lose money on those things, but we lost time and like our own power. You know what I'm saying? So like who you deal with matters, and like time matters, and what you invest in matters, and opportunity cost matters. And so that's the most that we lost from fucking with this industry, which on every level, this industry is this industry, but like the opportunities and like how truth sustained through that and what it provided. And like once again, like my relationships, my having performed in front of anywhere from 5 to like at different points in time, a couple hundred to a couple thousand people for different reasons. And like, knowing what that's like in life, bro, and being able to like apply myself to my passions in a way that actually like produce fruits and like produce opportunities for others and have people, you know, to whatever modest level. Like I've had fans in other parts of the world and shit like that. And not just like social media because someone happens to hear your shit, but like I've had people recognize me, dog, like not through degrees of separation socially because the niggas on board. And like, that's B, you know what I'm saying? Like we listen to your music, tell me my lyrics back. Like that shit that you can't buy stuff like that. So I don't care like what scale it is, like that. And being seen as like being respected, even being reminded, like having people who I respect remind me that like I'm dope when they see me, and I haven't put music out in years, blood. Like, you know, having that identity established as like, nah, this guy, he's real. You know what I'm saying? Like he's with the shit. Like I was a fan, bro. I know I was never more than a fan of this shit. I still am. And so, you know, from that standpoint, it's kind of like God, this is the real term. And it's not a victory lap. I don't mean that, but it's like, it's just, it was all just a parade other than trying to establish the truth of the business of it, you know, and really make something that then like we would have hopefully been able to been like, have been adding to these stories and maybe sitting from a different place, like talking about what Change Up Entertainment was, is, and or will be, you know?
Yeah.
But ownership, man, it's a hell of a thing. It's I've been able to make a career off of owning myself and owning the shit that I've invested in. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of what's built my brand development, my marketing prowess, my like opportunities is the fact that I tried and applied myself and then took it upon myself to make those opportunities and then provide opportunities for others that's valuable. And it's provided, it's built to the road for me. You know what I'm saying? Or I guess I've been able to build the road as I walk.
Why is it that you get more of the people today that are, you remember like the people that were selling Cutco knives back in the day when we were high school, you know what I'm saying? And then the Verve energy drink. And then now you got everybody doing the Forex shit, right? Like,
bro, I was selling negative amortization real estate loans. I probably got some people like into a house and had them swiftly lose it during the whole housing crisis, dog. I'm telling you, I've always been hustling. Before that, I was lying to niggas about newspaper subscriptions and fucking college scholarships and stuff, making like $800 a week, riding around in vans with niggas smoking cigarettes. Fucking after basketball practice. So it's always been
so like obviously you're a driven ass person, right? Like you pushed through 3 knee surgeries, you pushed through going down to San Diego and then coming back and then, you know, with your career that you were trying to get off the ground and you've been able to build a name off of yourself. Like what gets you like up and energized every day? Like what the fuck, what is it like? What are you trying to accomplish?
That's a good question, man. That's also like a weighted question. I'm trying to live a life fulfilled, bro. I guess like that's
Do you think up until this point you have?
yeah, for sure. I mean, we could, everything is 2020 in hindsight, but that's why that's why I apply myself on the front end, bro.
Yeah.
Like I'm never gonna go through this shit perfectly. None of us were, and none of us are gonna make it out alive. So like
Yeah.
this will sound cliche because it is until you internalize certain stuff where you actually own it and then you know it. But like I'm there's certain existential creeds that I try to live by. Like I don't really regret shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I try to live in a way that doesn't require that. And like, could things have been done or go? Yeah, once again, you could always look back and think about how you would have done something differently. Hopefully you do, because that's growth and you're learning. But like, like I said, I would have rather died, Ox, before like I would have lived my life not for me.
Yeah.
And for me is a lot of things. It for me means like who I am, how I exist, like what I provide. Like there's certain like foundational, fundamental elements of like fulfillment as a human being. And we could all get caught up in this bullshit I do every day, every minute. But like the content doesn't change the fact that like we all have certain core tenets that we require for fulfillment. And like I think I've just always had a very deep my own understanding of that, man. And I was raised in a way that like I internalized shit. I don't know. Praise be to my mom. I couldn't say whatever it was specifically, and she wasn't perfect to show, but like,
yeah,
a lot of parents tell their kids shit. You know what I'm saying? And she raised me to believe that like, nah, bro. Like one, like she was educated and educated me, and I've had the opportunity to only pursue what I guess through my formative years in life. And like when you shape your perspective through life, all I pursued is what I'm passionate about. And it always provided me a way, and like, I can honestly say, dog, like I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not willing to sacrifice that. And when I say a happy person, I don't mean because I get what I want or I'm always doing what I want, but I'm fulfilled. Like I'm not putting masks on. I'm not shifting masks all the time. I'm not having to spend like the precious minutes and seconds of my life doing shit that like I don't find value in, or being in places or around people that I don't respect. You know what I'm saying? And like I always have hope, like because I'm passionate about the shit that I do. Like I'm always progressing towards some shit that's better than what was. Like I feel like I've lived like 3 lives, dog, because I've gotten to so thoroughly experience shit that like few people get to. And they've all been in the same life. And I happen to be born in this amazing fucking place. So like, what keeps me going is that, man. Like I could say my son, but it's before Omi Soul. Omi Soul is just a product of that. Like, and he reaps the benefits of that too. But it's not Omi Soul. Like I'm the father I am because of my passions, and because of my integrity, and because of my moral compass, and because of my priorities. And so prioritizing like purpose, and bro, part of why my hair is the way that it is, and like why I committed to like only occupying spaces and doing shit that I found value in and I could bring value to, is because I wanted to force myself through that gauntlet of manifesting truth, right? And like it's a learning process. And I learned and I stumbled through a lot of shit too, but like I'm not gonna concede to like dying slowly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, my physical form's going to do that anyway. And so like all it is really accountability, and like not living, I guess, no, it's not living through fear, bro. Like I don't, like the worst that can happen is I die. And like, and we're all going to die. Like we're all going to not matter like sooner than we think, because our ego wants to attach to shit, dog. And so like all that really fucking matters. And this isn't a whimsical YOLO thing. This is like, nah, apply yourself. Like don't use your word, don't use your time frivolously, don't fucking, it's easier not to lie, dog. And maybe that's not the case for everybody. Like I'm blessed in a lot of ways, and I've chosen certain shit that I've forced myself into an identity that now sustains itself and reinforces itself. And like, so that I wake up happy as fuck every day, bro. Like, and I deal with a lot of emotional, internal, psychological shit. That's all part of the process, and I process it. And sometimes I go to these places or I deal with my shit, but like, every day is fucking new and happy to me, blood. Like I have this kid, like I get to pick him up and take him to school. Like I'm doing shit that I enjoy. Like I could keep doing shit that I enjoy. I could get money doing shit I enjoy. Or I could pivot and just focus on getting money if I need to. But like I don't. What the fuck is that anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to build wealth. I'm trying to enjoy my time. I'm trying to like prioritize. You know what I'm saying? And prioritize value. And so like everything's always moving and progressing, and it reminds me that like I'm doing shit right, and I don't ever be like, damn, like I wish I had, or I did. And I have friends who do, bro. I have friends who are around me at these times where like they were around my passionate, fucking emotional, unstable ass, like, bro, like fuck these video games. Like, let's just like, this is before podcasts. This is before, I'm like, we got all of this equipment and these talented people around us. Like, this is what we're around each other to do. Like, we're not going to have this. We're not all just going to be in apartments with each other, smoking weed and walking around the bay all day. Like, like, let's make this content now. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's, even if we don't do shit with it, like this isn't, you know, and not that niggas don't get that stuff, but not everyone's the same, or else we'd all be doing shit. You know what I'm saying? And so like, like I've had same people be like, man, you know, I wish, or like, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I feel you. Like, that's what I feared. That's the only thing I fear is like, like having not like tried, having not inquired, having not like explored. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's crazy, dude.
Living a life unexamined, living a life unfulfilled, like that's what keeps me going. And I examine my shit and I'm fulfilled as fuck, bro. And I'm just trying to keep that going. And that's all a process. It could end tomorrow. So that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, no, that's the best message, man. I 100% feel that. That's what gets me up every day. That's my biggest fear is regretting not doing something. I'd rather fail than not try. That's my whole thing. I'd rather fail than not try.
And it's again, and we hear, especially in these Instagram, like motherfuckers will post memes that don't got nothing to do with how they exist. And not even to judge, but like, because all this shit that we're saying, it sounds hella normal, especially nowadays, bro. But like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's it's just opportunity, bro. It's just lessons. Like, and I think that things like sports or whatever it is for a person, like it helps reinforce that for you. Skateboarding, you know what I'm saying? How many times my mom listened while she was cooking dinner to a skateboard on the blacktop outside, blood, while I'm like breaking my body trying to figure out how to do a ollie, then a kickflip, then a double kickflip, or a varial flip, or like, you know, and it's like all of that shit helps you understand like that's the value. Like that's the value. You know what I'm saying? Like once I was able to ride down the street and just do a double kickflip or a varial flip into a manual and then, you know, go get some pizza, that's fun. But like you don't get that without the other shit. And the other shit is the whole process. Like that's the whole thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the whole thing. And if you break that in from the micro to the macro of life, like it's just that the journey's the whole thing, blood. And so like enjoy that shit and apply yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then you know, and this shit won't exist at one point. Right. And so, and then another thing is like, I you know, for however I can't control other people. I can control how they receive or perceive me. But like, you know what how they say like the sins of the father become like the whatever of the son. Mm-hmm. Like I could die tomorrow. I could die in 20 years. I could die in 60 years. You know what I'm saying? With technology, who knows what the fuck? But like, what I know is that I want to have in some way like added to experience. I don't need to contribute or say that I changed the world or I made the world a better. Like the world is the world. Like this is all balanced. We really don't even fucking matter that much, I don't think. But like, so in what I can control, like if people are like, nah, like that dude was solid. Or like, I really love that person. Or like, I appreciated this person. Or like that person created this that's now benefiting these people. Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so if I haven't done that yet and I get in a car accident tomorrow, it's like, you know, I not to eulogize myself, but I'd like to think that people will have appreciated the fact that I existed, bro. You know,
Yeah. No, that's
not,
it's
and
crazy.
not in a frivolous way, and like, you know, like that's really all it is. And so I encounter everyone like that. Like, you
Yeah.
never know the homeless dudes who know me and my
Right.
kid on the block just because I
Right.
be giving them shit and I talk. I'm not fuck giving. I talk to them. Like I see
Yeah.
them. Like they're our neighbors, right? Someday Omi Soul could be in a pinch, and like that might be the same person that sees him out on the street when somebody's about to fuck his shit up, and
Right.
they're like, nah. Or the business owners that like, you know,
Right.
so like on a real like every day, every moment level, that's what matters to me too.
Yeah.
And I fuck up. You know, I'm not nice to everyone, but that's what that matters to me.
Yeah. Damn. Yo, I swear, like it's crazy, man. I say the same exact stuff to people. So it's good to know that there's other people out there that because I feel like I sound crazy sometimes when I say what you're saying, especially because it's like, you know, you don't hear it from everybody. You know, like the concept of treating other people like human beings, like shouldn't be that difficult to understand, but that's really like, you know, we all are just fighting the same fight. And there's, you know, I treat the person at the front desk the same as I would treat the CEO every day.
Of course, man. That shit's whack to me not to. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I could project a bunch right now, but then I get why society's not like that. It's hard, dog. It's hard. Like it's not easy to be present. And we all, you know, you have an amazing older brother who I know, and you guys I know have amazing parents just because I know y'all. And you know, you're given different tools, right? And so I also try to remember that. And like I've also been given different trauma that has me, you know, so I don't cheat, and I'm not like I don't abuse women and shit like that. But like, there's women who won't say the most positive shit about me. You know what I'm saying? And like, and nothing outrageously crazy that would make me seem like just a bad man. But like, you know, we're all trying and coming from different places and trying to figure shit out. But yeah, man, it probably feels crazy because it sounds crazy, or like because it's not the standard. Like we all have. We have these ideals and projected values, but it's if the reality of things were better, life would be different. You know what I'm saying? Society would be different. Statistics of marriage would be different. Like addiction rates would be different. So like it's why it seems crazy, because in the world that we live in, it is. You think about it, and it's difficult. It's difficult to, even though it's probably like I don't know, it's getting too philosophical. Because I can't control shit. All I can, you know what I'm saying? Like, all I know is that, like, you know, I've taken a lot from reading and teaching and mentors and peers and experience, and I know that. Like, and when I say I know, it's not from like informational places. It's like I know that shit. So you're gonna have to make this other shit make more sense before you're gonna tell me that with my life and time that like I'm crazy. You see what I'm saying?
For
like sure, you don't have to know what I know, but like you're not gonna change my disposition because like of the resistance of you know, the matrix or whatever the fuck one wants to call it, of the playing field, the chessboard. Like I'm a do me and learn the game. So ultimately, like I could play it with as much ease as possible. I'm not gonna say so I don't have to play it, because we all have to be here. We all have to buy into the system. We all have to, you know, sometimes like compensate, you know, sacrifice, like, but like I said, it's all like iteration of a target. You know what I'm saying? And I'd like to think that I be living my life like this, bro. And so a lot of the other shit that like encompasses all of this, like it's here for me. Like it's every day, bro. It's weed, my kid, my loved ones, comedy podcasts, traveling, and money. And like I don't even value money like that, but the resource comes from the value. You know what I'm saying? And like, so it's and exponentially greater opportunity, you know, and like exponentially deeper fulfillment from like the actual process of everything that I be doing. So like I be trying to live like not like this, not like this, you know what I'm saying? But I just be trying to be here as much as possible. And so all the shit, you know, it creates that smooth Fibonacci.
Well, shit, man. We're way over time. Is there anything you want to plug before we get off?
Man, not public fully yet, but Better Weed Deals.
Okay.
Better Weed Deals. Shout out to Better Weed Deals. Shout out to the whole cannabis space, man. A lot of y'all pay me, so I'm not gonna like try to like this company whoop do why. But everybody operating efficiently in the cannabis space, responsibly in the cannabis space, y'all dope, doing good business. Man, shout out to you, bro, for real. Like, why I was happy to be on this was because of how much I respect, like, who you are, truly. You know, the moments, all the times that we've shared, conversations we've had. Yeah. And then, but a less personal for me part of that, how you operate, dog. Like, I'm truly a fan of your shit. You know that I buy your shirts, and I know you. and I try to respond and comment on your stuff, and not saying that for clout, but more so like it's sincere, bro. And so like shout out to you for doing what you do and like manifesting this to a point where it's now something that we can do, and it provides, you know, opportunity for others, and that, you know, man, anybody watching you knows you, but what you've been doing as a comedian, and how you started, and like and how you own that, and you know, have taken control of that, highly admirable, bro. And so as a fan of comedy, of course, like that's dope. But then you being my homie, being a dope comedian, and then these values that we've been talking about, watching you do that is shout out to you, man. You know what I'm saying? For real.
Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, hearing that a lot, man. It's you know, when you're on the grind all the time, you often forget to pat yourself on the back. So it's, you know, so thank you. I appreciate that. But man, like, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for the time. I know you're hella busy right now. But
I feel like an asshole. I could have made the earlier stories way more fun, man. There's better details.
I mean, that's what part two will come, and that's my job as a host. I got to do a better job of getting that out sooner. So
now you asked some good ass questions, and this is good foundational stuff. So if there being a part two, I'll make the purpose of a part two worthwhile for sure.
Yeah, we'll get it on there. All right, B, I appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you too, bro. Peace.
All right, man, see you.